My name is Tom Bilyeu, and I'm one of the passionate few.
You forwarded some successful startups prior. I know that you guys had Awareness Tech, which did very well. Were there any other entrepreneurial endeavors when you came back?
Yeah, so I was a wantrepreneur in the extreme when I was fresh out of college. So I did some MLMs. That's when I was selling insurance door to door.
Yeah,
trying to build that downline, baby. But just so desperate to
residual income.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so desperate to have passive income, to be my own boss. I did that. I started a photography company. Just any sort of side hustle that I could get going.
Is that where you found personal development in the MLM world?
A little bit, yeah. Like I was just always from the time I got out of college. By then, after the big failure and everything, I understood I have to improve, and I was reading a lot. And so this notion that I have to get better, that I can get better, and that I'm encountering all these amazing ideas in these books, encountering Tony Robbins and just being blown away by how he was kicking me in the ass and making me feel empowered at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, whoa.
Exactly,
and so realizing that his advice was real, which is just the highest compliment I can pay anyone. Anybody out there, if you think Tony is just a rah-rah guy, I promise you, like, do what he says, your life will turn around.
Oh,
so
many times over, it's happened to me, so I concur, I second that notion.
Yeah, you're right on the money. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that was sort of happening at the same time. And the MLMs more gave me a chance to be gutsy, right? To quit my job and go do this MLM thing. Because I thought,
become a multi-level marketing millionaire.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I was headed. But I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to market. Like, so much of it was foreign to me. But it forced me to knock, buy something, buy something, right? And you toughen up. Like, you get a resolve. And so it was just invaluable. But the thing that really accelerated my growth was when the guys who ultimately became my business partners hired me as a copywriter. And those guys were just a PhD in entrepreneurship.
So from MLM, you try something else. What was it from MLM to Awareness Tech? Because you obviously at that point had given up film because you crashed and burned.
Yeah. So I hadn't given up film. So everything I was doing, and I had a slew of hilarious jobs.
Okay.
Including one. This is my favorite. So.
Gotta hear this one.
This is in my King of Remedial Jobs phase, right? So I'm telling everybody, hey, I actually said with pride, I am the King of Remedial Jobs. And what I meant by that was if I went, there was a certain time, because this is back in the newspaper days, man. I would like flip through a newspaper before Craigslist, baby.
Yeah.
And I would find like a list of, help wanted.
Wanted ads.
And there was one that was like, driver wanted, must have own car. And I was like, yeah, buddy, like I'll be able to drive and write screenplays while I'm driving. Like, this is fantastic, because it was like you had to wait. It was like drive people, drop them off, wait, take them back. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have a fair amount of time, just writing. So I go to this interview and I show up in this like super shady like strip mall. The guy interviewing me has no shoes on. He's got his feet up on the desk and he's playing guitar during the interview, like strumming absentmindedly on the guitar while he's interviewing me. And I was like, I'm going to get this job. Like, this is my guy. Like, this is where I shine, because by this time I've already developed my verbal skills. So I'm very able to charm him and really, and Jesus, I have a degree. Yeah. So there I am, like, did really well in college, and he's reading my resume and he's blown away by how I'm talking. And I'm like, I got this, man. And he's like, why are you applying for this job? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, dude, you're like way overqualified for this. And I'm thinking, that makes me feel so good about myself, right? Like, that's all I want to hear. That's why I'm here. Stroke my ego, make me feel good. Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, but it's going to give me time to write. And I was like, but tell me a little bit more. Like, what am I doing exactly? Like, what am I driving? And he was like, models. And I'm like, models? Like, I'm driving models to like photo shoots? Yeah. He was like, well, not really. He's like, you're going to be driving models. And like alarm bells start going off. You're going to be driving models to like private showings and, all you have to do, you're going to have a pager and the girl will text you a number And if she texts you a 1, it's like she needs 10 more minutes. And if she texts you 911, though, you go kick in the door and you like find out what's going on. And I'm like, what? And so I'm like, oh man, like I don't really get like what is going on. This sounds super dicey.
Right.
But like how perfect. I'm going to be able to write. Like this is going to be amazing. I bet I'll meet crazy people. Like they'll give me all kinds of stories. It's going to be so awesome. And so self-delusion kicks in. I'm like, it can't be that bad. Like it's just modeling. And I go home and it's like a night job.
And you take the gig.
I say yes.
Wow.
I say yes. I go home and I'm sleeping now in the middle of the day because I'm about to drive for the first time that night.
Right.
And
it's the big night.
It's the big night. And my mom calls and I wake up and I'm like, hello? And she's like, why are you sleeping? And I'm like, oh, I've got this new job. She's like, doing what? And I'm like, driving models. And she's like, they're escorts. They're escorts. You're not driving models. And she's like, no son of mine can take this job. Yeah. So I'm like,
you make Washington unproud.
That was pretty stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. So I never actually did it, but for a very brief moment,
you were on your
path. I
Yeah.
sort of had a job driving models. So mom to the rescue again.
So then you attempt to drive models, and then what happens before Awareness Tech?
I go back to teaching. So, and that ended up the teaching. This was at the New York Film Academy. Gave me so many amazing things in my life, and there's a whole book. I don't believe in fate, but Jesus, the story of how my wife and I managed to logistically get together when she's in London and I'm in Los Angeles, and all the things that had to go perfectly for us to make it happen. It's unbelievable. And when I walk people through how many coincidences lined up, it's pretty absurd. So the New York Film Academy gave me just a lot of great things in my life, and including my wife, and ended up leading me to the guys that became my partners, and then my journey into true entrepreneurship. And so, yeah.
Okay. And then Awareness Tech, how did that start? That was just a group of guys. You guys got together and started a tech company to make money, or?
So they had 2 companies going, and one was sort of Awareness Tech. They didn't have the software yet. It didn't really exist. And they said, we need a copywriter. And so I said, okay, well, I'll be a copywriter.
How'd you meet these guys?
They heard me give a lecture on filmmaking, not really filmmaking, but how to use psychology to influence buying behavior, and how to use media to do that.
So through teaching, you met these guys who hired you to be a copywriter.
Exactly.
So you connected the dots that way. Okay,
exactly.
Makes sense.
And so I had a lot of people come to the school that were like, we're going to work together. And these guys actually made good on that promise, and said, hey, we'll teach you to be an entrepreneur. Stop coming to the world with your hand out. You're never going to be able to make the movies you want to make. Somebody else controls the money. So learn to be an entrepreneur. But the job we actually have is a copywriter. So you're going to write copy. But don't think of yourself as just a copywriter. Think of yourself as a partner in the business. So get the copywriting done, and then do a whole bunch of other stuff.
So you had an ownership stake in it as well?
Not at first. No, I had to earn my way to that. But ultimately, by the time we sold the company, I had 10% ownership.
And when you guys sold the company, was it a multi-million-dollar acquisition, or?
It was, but like a small multi-million-dollar acquisition.
And at the time of that acquisition, how old are you?
God, how old was I when we sold that? So we did Quest for 6 years. So I would have been 34.
Okay, so 34. And when that acquisition goes through and it's a couple $1 million, are you psyched, or you're already looking for the next thing?
No, man, I was mortified by that. That was the company that I went and said I quit. I can't do this anymore. This is just chasing money.
So it was like Tony talks about success without fulfillment. It's the ultimate failure. Was that kind of thing?
100%. And just ridiculous. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life, and I had 10% ownership in this company, and I never invested money. It was all through sweat equity, and so for the first 4 years, it was magical. And I didn't mind that I was working nonstop. So I was working, not only was I working at Awareness Tech, but I was also doing side hustles. So I was doing domain squatting and trying to get good at that. And, before people really knew what they were doing, trying to build up affiliate websites. And, so I was doing the side hustle thing, and then doing Awareness Tech, and through performance, just busting my ass. I went from copywriter to an owner and principal in the company and the chief marketing officer, but also during all of that, just completely burned out and had success without fulfillment. And finally convinced the guys that, look, if you want to keep being a partner with me, then we've got to sell. And they felt the same. And so we decided to do something that we could believe in, and that was based purely on passion. And
so when you guys sold that company, you ended up using the profit from that deal to maybe not start Quest, but I guess to figure out what to do next? Because I know it was 3 of you that started with 10 grand. Is that correct? 3 of you guys branded to get 4 of you? 4 total.
There were 4 at the very beginning, and
Okay.
then one guy moved on.
And it was $10,000 startup, correct?
Yeah, that was probably like the first 8 months was all we invested. So what we did was I was the first full-time employee. So they both
Quest.
stayed. Yeah. So they both stayed back at Awareness Tech, and I went and started Quest. So for the first year, from a day-to-day perspective, it was just me.
Wow.
And
Who came up with the name for Quest, by the way?
I think it was, God, the first person that threw it out, I think was Ron's wife.
Yeah. Ron is who's now the CEO of Quest, correct?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So he was always CEO of Quest. I was president, and I'm 99% sure that it was his wife that threw out the name. But it was one of those things where it wasn't like obvious at first, and we had so many names on the list, and it's like impact theory. Same thing here. Like we went through so many names, and what can you trademark, and it's just like this brutal process. But Quest ended up being the one that sort of like we kept coming back to, like, yeah, that's pretty dope. Like it works with a lot of things, and it's got just an amazing amount of riffability.
Do you remember the second runner-up?
I don't, man. I don't. It's a long time ago now. So, if we were officially at Quest for 6 years, another year to 18 months before that we were really conceptualizing and starting to think of names and stuff. So, it's been, Jesus,
so long,
8-ish years. So,
wow. And then Quest starts, and I know you guys were making the bars in your garage originally. Is that true?
Not in the garage, and hopefully that makes everybody feel a lot better. No, we were making them in a commercial kitchen that we rented by the hour.
Wow.
So we would, we were shipping them out of the garage though. They were packaged by then. We would run the software company by day, and then at night we would go and make the bars with rolling pins and handheld knives. And yeah, it was just.
And did you guys have any experience in ingredient making? I mean, where did you guys go out and seek the wisdom to figure out the ingredients? Because that's what ended up being your guys' claim to fame in that space.
So Ron is an absurdly talented person with metabolism and nutrition, and just really gets it. I mean, that guy is a genius. So he is, in my opinion, and look, obviously I'm very close to the situation, but he's the Steve Jobs of nutrition, in my opinion. Like, that guy is just amazing. And then his wife Shannon she was really good at the formulation. She formulated the first couple bars in the kitchen, and that was like sort of proof of concept. And then we had to commercialize that, and that's one of those things that didn't really think about, is what does that entail, right? And you really have to like completely reformulate the bars, because it just doesn't hang together when it's what works in your kitchen ends up rotting on the shelf. And so you have to find a way to make it shelf stable. So we had to bring in food scientists and stuff for that. And, even Ron at the time didn't know enough about it. And so we had to have experts come in and teach us, but we all learned very quickly. And Ron was so passionate about it and was just absorbing all of that information, and got just insanely good at it.
So passion is what fueled Ron and his wife's sort of understanding of it. It wasn't that they had degrees or some sort of
neither of them do. So Shannon was a personal trainer, and Ron was just a guy that really wanted to understand his own body, and knew to add the muscle he wanted to add, he was really going to have to understand human metabolism, and he was a pre-med student, and so had some pretty serious training.
So there was
from that
some background,
from a metabolic standpoint, but not from a food science standpoint. None of us had experience in that.
And then I know you guys had an issue with contract manufacturing, right? You figured out that you couldn't do it, so you guys had to figure out a plan B. What was that like?
Yeah, that was absolutely hysterical. So we never intended to be our own manufacturer, and we went to the contract manufacturers and said, hey, we want to make these bars. They're unlike anything else that's out there on the market. And they're like, yeah, this is great, but you can't make it on the machines. Like, and what we realized was, for the last 50, 60 years, equipment has been developed in lockstep with the use of high fructose corn syrup. So, and not only does high fructose corn syrup taste great, preserve the bars, it also makes them insanely pliable. So they go through the machines really easily. So once you pull that out, even if you replace it with a liquid fiber, so you think like this looks the same.
Close enough.
It's just radically different as it goes through the equipment. So we very quickly realized that it's just not going to work, and everyone that told us it wasn't going to work was right. But my other partner, Mike, is truly an Iowa farm boy, and looked at the equipment and thought, to get our stuff stuff to work on this. If you let me re-engineer the equipment, we can make this happen. And that's what he did. He ended up cutting it apart with a Sawzall and welding it back together, and it worked. And it was like, holy hell. And so all of a sudden we were in the game of not only manufacturing, but engineering our own equipment. So it was, it was pretty
breakthrough.
insane.
And at that time, I know that the market was super saturated with all these new bars coming out. So to come out, I mean, you guys were definitely not the first to market. You know, I mean, I think a lot of people don't even realize that Quest barely launched in 2010? Is that correct?
Yeah, 2010, exactly.
So 6 years ago, I mean, it didn't even exist. It wasn't even a brand, you know?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then I know the first 3 years you guys grow 57,000%. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Wow. And then you guys did your own sales? I mean, were you just doing it by the phone at first, trying to get in stores, or what was that first process
so
like?
In the beginning, it was all about going online. We wanted to have a direct relationship with the customer, and this was one of the early decisions that we had to make was, do you go into stores first or do you go online first? And I remember it was a big battle, and finally the right idea won out. And we went online first and established that relationship with the consumer and built a community, and were able to leverage our understanding of social marketing, and that's really what allowed us to grow A, rapidly, and B, go to stores with a position of power instead of really coming and sort of begging to be put on shelves. So we didn't have to agree to a lot of the things that other people did.
Right.
We negotiated contracts that were survivable. Like a lot of times the contracts that you get are so lopsided in favor of the retailer, you just can't survive. There's no margin.
And you just got to take it if you're a startup, but you guys had the leverage of already having momentum from online sales.
Exactly.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insight to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the Passionate Few.